Hello again, welcome back to stage 2, and I'm Dutta. Hope you had a quick cup of coffee. And welcome to our next panel, Startup Stories, Success, and Fuck-Ups Done Right. Almost 2/3 of the startups fail, but I think failure is also important to make a successful startup. And today, not only will we talk about success stories of startups, but also the mistakes that they did and how they coped with it. So we have 4 amazing panelists today, 2 Berlin-based founders and 2 more founders from Germany. And let's go right into the hard part and ask them to pitch their startup, because I think that's what they do best. So one by one, probably you could just tell us what's your name and in 3 lines, what's your startup about? And don't be nervous. So let's start with Lesley.
Right. Hi, my name is Lesley. I'm the CEO of U Impact. So we're here with the mission to demystify sustainable investment. So when it comes to sustainable investment market, it's super confusing for individual investors. It's full of jargon. It's very complex. There is no standardization as such. And it's just unnecessarily complex. So at U Impact, what we do is that we want to enable people like you and me to invest sustainably, just as easy as shopping on Amazon. Thank you.
All right. Hi, everyone. Very pleased to be here. So thank you, AsiaBerlin Summit. My name is Priyanka, and I'm the founder of Platonic. We're basically building a social messaging app for human connections and communities to happen in the real world. Let me give you an example. All of us here today have had dinners alone in front of our TV and Netflix, right? But when we scroll social media, we're taking pictures, screenshots, and saving experiences we want to share with another individual. So that's the power I want to give to every individual in this room, every individual in this planet, to have that on-demand connection, just like you order a cab. We are very excited to be here, and I'm going to pass it on to Luca.
Thank you. So I'm Luca, CEO and one of 4 co-founders of Exaloan, a Frankfurt-based fintech. Our mission is to close the global financing gap for individuals, entrepreneurs, and SMEs. And that's why we operate a global B2B marketplace on which we connect institutional investors, like banks, asset managers, or pension funds, with digital lending platforms. So we're all about developing software and the right tools to connect traditional financial institutions with fintech lenders, because we firmly believe that this fosters a more efficient and also more inclusive lending ecosystem.
And now we have Arne joining us online.
Thank you very much. As you can see, I put my logo on the back. That's the reason to be online. So you can see the brand of the company Rytle. I'm the founder. My name is Arne Kruse, and we did it like more than 3 years ago. And it's all about the mobility of cargo on the last meters. So we developed an infrastructure, an own ecosystem to allow in the future the perfect merge of the physical development of the delivery process together with the digital world to make sure that we have the best solution for an on-demand delivery for tomorrow. And that we did with a combination of hardware. We developed micro hubs, and we have heavy cargo bikes, we have swappable boxes. All of these heavy duty stuff is completely smart. And we set up an IT platform where we have all the options you need for managing the fleet, to execute the deliveries, get full transparency on the closest to the door delivery. And the most important thing, we have a platform where we connect the demand, so the number of parcels together with the supply, with the drivers to do the delivery process. And that's a unique thing we have now in more than 70 cities up and running. And thanks for being here on the pitch and on the discussion.
Oh, wow. So we have like a pretty diverse set, not just in terms of business model, but also in terms of maturity. So it's going to be great. So now it's my time to ask questions. And since this is AsiaBerlin and this is AsiaBerlin Summit, we have 2 startups here who have actually made it successfully in Asia. And probably I would really love to know about that. So starting with you, Luca, tell us about your business model and why Southeast Asia, and how did you really crack that?
That's a great question. So as mentioned, our business model is all about connecting traditional financial institutions with fintech lenders. And so for us, particularly Southeast Asia has always been firmly on the map, essentially because it's a huge market, more than 600 million individuals, great demographics, quite heavily underserved or unbanked even by traditional financial institutions. So that whole region is, to us, a pretty perfect spot for digital business models, but also most notably digital lending models to thrive. And so for us, that's a very vibrant region where the growth really is. And it also, when you think about it from an investment point of view, it's a great investment opportunity also because the yields are very high and, over here in Europe, not so much. So there's a real power of connecting. And so how did we tackle that market? I think the best way to do or to tackle any market is to get your boots firmly on the ground. So we were very happy that we got the chance to participate in the German Accelerator Southeast Asia program. As a matter of fact, last year, and I believe we were the last cohort that was still able to get on the ground. Then once we did get on the ground, the airport shut down, so we kind of had to stay. It was fantastic. So using the mentor network and all the contacts that we got by virtue of participating in that program, it really allowed us learn more about the cultural intricacies of each market. Actually, realize how much more fragmented Southeast Asia is than to what meets the eye of a traditional European guy. Yeah. So that's how we really. So we had a lot of coaching, a lot of mentoring, and really combined that with field desk research and then ultimately just being local in order to really find out what kind of markets to prioritize, understand where the demand is basically highest, and then ultimately you need to validate all your hypotheses. So you have to start, and then we kind of just took the plunge.
So if I have to do a quick follow-up in terms of what are the 2 common mistakes that people could make when they're expanding into Asia, what would you say?
Assuming a certain level of homogeneity that we tend to have here in Europe by virtue of the common market and common currency. And then you're really dumbstruck when you find out that, other countries are not necessarily as similar. So that's one. And the second one, assuming, again, assuming that, coming from Europe, everything works in kind of a similar way, all the cultures, they are in a way, similar, but when you actually are in Southeast Asia, you realize that to us Europeans, that region might look very similar, but the markets and especially also the cultures are extremely different. And even like the way to conduct business meetings when you're on the ground is very different, whether you're in Indonesia or if you're in Vietnam or if you're thinking about the Philippines. So we had to find that out the hard way.
But you found out, that's the good news. So, and Arne, I mean, particularly your business model is more on the cost intensive side. I don't know whether to look here or here, but I choose to look here. So it's more on the cost intensive side, and you're already in 70 cities in Europe. And also now looking into Asia, or already I think you have established in Asia. So how did you make that decision about, okay, now it's time for Asia?
Due to my previous career, I have been working all over Asia in the last 20 years. And so for us, it was an easy decision to go to Asia. And we set up our office in Singapore, and we start to get all the regulations done, which we need for our hardware. And that was the most complicated part, because it's not that easy if you have a European Union alignment with a German DIN norm and all these kind of things. It doesn't mean that all these things work also in Asia. So we also learned the hard way. That's not the easy one. And until now, we didn't get any allowance to get our vehicle in the market. And so we didn't get our software run in the market with the vehicle. So we decided to go to other markets as well. And we are doing that together with the Indonesian market. We are quite far. We had the first pilots and the first orders from Japan. So that's how we took Singapore as a hub for Asia. And during our time we spent in Asia, and we have also been extremely happy and proud to be part of the accelerator. And I just can confirm what I just heard before. So that was our starting point in Asia, was go to Singapore, find out all the different countries, go to parallel markets and see where you can put your seeds and where the plants will grow first.
Wow, okay. I don't think we've had anybody expand into Singapore since at least the panels that I attended since morning. So great to know success stories out of Singapore. And we will come back to the accelerator question because I'm sure all of you have different experiences with accelerators. So Priyanka, you are from India, you told me.
That's a good guess.
And you said that you have plans to take Platonic back to India.
Home. Yes.
Yeah, back home.
Back home. Yeah, I mean, I grew up, I was born there, I grew up there. I've spent 27 years of my life there. It's home, right? And I know how vibrant the culture is. I know how much we like to close office and go out and drink and celebrate every day of our lives. So Platonic as a mission is about bringing back that happiness to every individual. So it's a no-brainer. I'm going to take this back home, and I'm going to make my people happy about this. Yeah.
And I think Volker in our previous panel also said that when you have, so in their university batch, they have around 40% non-German startups, and most of them end up taking their startup back to their home. So that's a way of internationalization also, I guess.
I agree with you. I know Volker and I will have a conversation after this because I do want to talk to him about the international community here and also the fact that there is a severe need to address this problem of international people suffering through social isolation. So, yeah.
Okay.
He's right.
So, Lesley, my friend Tina here, co-founder of Useristics, tells me that one of the main reasons for startups to fail is that they chase the wrong users and probably don't have the right product market fit. And you come from a corporate background and you started your startup. And how was it for you to work on the MVP? And how was this entire concept of defining your user, building your MVP, and what are probably the mistakes you made there, and what did you learn from that? If you could share a bit about that.
Sure. I actually learned the very hard way. So I come from a corporate background. I spent over 10 years in banking in London, working for the biggest investment banks in the UK. So from day one, I was trained to be a perfectionist. Mistakes are zero tolerance in the market. So when I turned entrepreneur, I thought, okay, you know what? When I get a no from people, that means my failure. That is not tolerated. So what I did was that I call it the theoretical entrepreneur. I read a lot of books about entrepreneurship. I read a lot of books about fintech, had a beautiful pitch deck, even with a grand vision, except one thing I didn't do something, anything, build anything that I can engage with the users, talk to them about what is the real pain point, not just that the funny monster in my head. I was trying to design the grand vision for it. So then that was 6 months. 6 months passed. I would say that was probably the lowest point of my whole startup life in the past 2 years. So then early last year, I got accepted into an incubator program from the Porsche Digital, the formation program. And I was really pushed to do something, talk to real users, engage with the real world, find out what they're looking at, what they're looking for. And okay, there you go. And my co-founder and I, we started really do something about it, start engaging. And then the execution did the magic. Luck started to follow us. It took us 6 months to talk to users, have an MVP, iterate, cycle after cycle, until one day we got into a competition called FinTech for Impact, organized by Visa and judged by 13 German banks. We got the opportunity to present our solution. We were the grand winner. And from then, luck followed us. Then we got selected to be the top 3 to get in the ring for the German early impact startup. And then next month, we're going to The Hague representing Germany to compete in the impact final. And then we got our B2B first client, and we're closing a funding round. So luck will follow doers, not daydreamers. Execution, execution, execution. So
100%.
that's my take. Learn the hard way. There you go.
And you were also always out there talking about your ideas, it seems.
That's right. That's right. I learned that I have to be the thick skin. I say, you have to learn. You have to be a beginner every single day. And you learn something from everyone. Well, I have to admit, and from the big corporate world, the ego, the afraid to be the chicken to admit to mistakes, that was really holding me back. So that's a clear message to entrepreneurs, first-time founders, or corporate people to want to be entrepreneurs. Just don't be afraid of the F-ups. Just do it. Execution. There you go.
Wow, that's inspiring. And Arne, now I have to come back to you and ask you something on a follow-up on that. So your business model, in contrast to Lesley's, is more say cost-intensive, and also you have to really, if you have to rework on something, you really have to establish from the beginning to rework on that. So what have been your how did you deal with, any kind of mistakes that you made in your product development, or if you had to go back and start from the beginning? What was your coping strategy there?
So for me, especially, it was the people management is extremely complex in our kind of business, because we have, on the one hand, we have the hardware side where we just build small heavy-duty bicycles very close to cars nowadays, and on the other hand we have completely new fresh ideas on the IT side, and to put these people together is really a big challenge, because we have completely different mindsets. So you start bringing people to the thinking you want them to do, but then you realize that you cannot really change people. So you have to accept that due to the speed of your business, you have to make decisions for change also in the people business. And that is very difficult if you juggle from the hardware, from the trusted German engineering to the international markets with IT ideas and speed of to be in the market. So that's one thing. We really have our homework to do. And the other thing is that the dream you have as a founder, you intend to talk to everybody about your dream because you love it, you live it, you get up with it, and in the evening you finish the last thought with your ideas of tomorrow. But a lot of people in your company are not the same. Otherwise, they would all have been founders, right? So you have to make sure that you separate your day, not talking to everybody only about vision, but also to focus on the day-to-day business, to stabilize your organization to a low growth. So if you have 70, 80, 90 people, then it's not the right time to talk about vision every day. It's more about day-to-day work, and make sure that you have a small team, the visionaries, to keep the pace to the future, but focus on today to make things happen and to get turnover in. I mean, at the end, it's not about getting funding. It's about one day making turnover, and we have more than 10 million turnover now. It's not easy to get to that and then take it from there to the next level. To add another zero on the number is quite a long way. And this you can only do with structure and structure your company correctly and focus not to change people, but find the right jobs for the people.
So with every growth phase, you will have a new set of challenges. That means...
Definitely.
Yeah, so good to know about that. I'm also glad you touched on the people point, because I think we were also having a chat about this, Priyanka, where you were talking about how important it is to choose the right people in the beginning for your company, and those are the mistakes you can really make. So why don't you give us a little bit of, thoughts on your experience with how do you really choose people, and what has been your experience in choosing the right co-founder, right team?
So that's a great question, because I started working on Platonic in the middle of COVID, right? Solitary confinement in my apartment, and I had to go out and for the first time network with people that were smarter than I am. It was tough. I will not undermine that. I looked at great CVs. I looked at great, amazing CVs, and I thought these are the right people to work with. But I think as a first-time founder, you often realize that is the first mistake you will make. I mean, after Lesley's point of like overcoming fear, right? Once you put yourself out there, you're out there interacting with the people, and you think these resumes are the ones that are going to create that structure, like Arne said, and build the companies that you want. But the difficult part is, in that early stage, without being a person in the market that has the trust and the value, how do you bring people on board if you can't fund these people, right? And honestly, the hardest part was trying to convince people to be doing a charity act towards my mission. And that's a big ask, to tell someone to leave their dreams, not worry about paying rent or finding food, but coming and joining your mission. So you have to find crazy people just as crazy as you are. And I found the most craziest mad geniuses in my team, and I'm super proud of everyone that is going to break barriers and build this company with me together. Yeah.
Do you write that in your job description? Be crazy, you're crazy, work with us. So I would apply.
But that's a good thing. Actually, we did do something kind of like finding out each other's personalities. We do like funny games. And Rahul, who leads our marketing, he's 24, but he's brilliant, right? He blows my mind every day. And every Friday, he's like, you know what, Pri, we're going to do a fun game to learn a little bit more about each other. And that's something I didn't come up with. That's something he taught me. So I think that's wonderful.
Yeah, I've met him and I've seen his passion for his job, so I would second that. And Luca, you just mentioned before our panel started that you are 4 co-founders, and I mean, it was a joke that you get to do the fun part, but tell us.
Fun.
Okay,
it's great being here.
Yeah, actually, yeah. So how is it like? I mean, one of the main reasons for startups to fail, and I, as a journalist, have done like enough stories on founder disputes and startups shut shop. So how do you really divide responsibilities in your startup with 4 co-founders?
Yeah, so we weren't 4 right from the start, but it kind of evolved organically. So we were 2 main initiators. Additionally, my co-founders, they are basically industry veterans. So I'm the youngest of the 4. So obviously I had to do most of the work, as in the operational stuff. Yeah. But what I think is really excellent and what helped me is sort of the strategic intuition that also, as pre-mentioned, when you have somebody else who's from a background who's maybe also an industry professional already or a veteran, that they can guide you, because ultimately you get a lot of experience for free from a lawyer or from a former investment banker or from a professor who basically does machine learning every day. So I think that is a very nice spirit that you can kind of foster. And so in our case, I guess we got pretty lucky, because in terms of the roles and responsibilities, it was pretty clear that based on our backgrounds, everybody would contribute, specific domain, specific knowledge to the project or to the company when it was in initial stages. So there was really not that much of a haggling. But I agree, until you get the band together, the first band of guys that are crazy enough to actually buy into your vision, and that then help you and basically take a leap of faith together with you, it takes a bit of time.
That's Leslie's favorite word, leap of faith. we will come to it. I think a lot of people are not getting our internal jokes, so I will give background on that. So I think we touched on accelerator programs, and you both, Arne and Luca, already spoke a bit about it, and what is the relevance of accelerator program and how German accelerator had such an important role to play in your expansion to Asia. I would also like to, extend this question to Lesley and Priyanka. Like, what are the kind of things that you expect from an accelerator program to bring to your startup at this point? And how has been your journey of finding the perfect accelerator for you? So probably you could start, Lesley.
Leslie, take it.
I guess there's no perfect for. You have to see what your situation is. In my case, in my previous story, I touched on the fact that as a first-time founder, that was a experience. It's just life-changing, because that was completely different from my previous learning from a corporate background. I needed the guidance, I had to admit, put down my ego, and just do something real that you can engage with real users. So at that time, an early stage, an idea stage accelerator, that was something very valuable to my journey. And Priyanka and I, we were actually part of the Factory Berlin Stealth Mode Accelerator program, focusing on inclusion and diversity, bringing female founders for the empowerment. That was something, it's valuable in a different angle. Entrepreneurship is very, very lonely as a journey. For female founders, that's even a more difficult experience. So having that curated just for that specific group of people, was supporting with like sisters, was supporting having the community, not just ladies. We had a lot of guys be part of the journey with us. And that is something we found very valuable. And then we're still talking, there we go, we're sitting together, sharing experience, helping each other in different stages. And that is really depends on the stage where you are, what you need, not just from a startup's point of view, from your mental health, from different angles of your needs as an entrepreneur, I would say.
I'm going to full circle that, right? Because at the end of that, if we shrink that down to one word, it's community. You can't do everything by yourself, right? And as founders, like Lesley mentioned, you're on this journey alone. And as a woman or a diverse individual, you are even further alone because you're a very small segment of that population. Now, I think for us, it was really amazing because my accelerator is SIVB. I just saw a couple of people here from the SIVB to support, so that's amazing, right? And sharing that community and that experience with the same people, we're going to be together for a very long time as friends, and not just acquaintances that we saw in one meetup event one evening when I was grabbing a beer, but this is going to be something we go through together. So, community, that's my word.
And I can at least say for myself that Berlin is all about community. And that's what we love about it. And so, Luca, what are the top three, and Arne as well, what are the top three things that you feel German Accelerator brought to you as a startup that really changed the game for you or sort of got you to the next level?
I think it reinforced the commonly quite well notion that the three most important things in a startup is focus, focus, focus. Because it really drills down this point. And in my opinion, also when you're choosing an accelerator program, I mean, there's virtually a sea of different accelerators all around the globe that you can apply for and that is available. But ultimately, I think when you're applying for a program, then you should not only make your choice based on, what kind of curriculum is there, but you should have a specific set of goals that you want to achieve during the program already in your mind. Meaning, when you do an accelerator program, do it with a purpose, do it with an agenda. Don't expect them to give you a menu of choices from which to offer. And as in, these are some things that we suggest you could do. That will be a waste of time. And I think this is really what was nice about the German accelerator program, because ultimately we constructed these set of goals together, and then it's all about, Lesley, doing things, right?
Yeah.
Then you work towards achieving these goals, and you measure and you hold yourself accountable against these goals, and then that is what gives you the right focus, the right mindset to actually take the most out of the program.
Indeed. And I think you would second that, Arne, and some more inputs from you about your experience with the accelerator program would be great.
Yeah, for us, we have been very special because we have all of us quite old. So we are all 40 plus, and everybody in the team had a very successful career in a startup or in a huge company. And so we went into the program in order to go back to school and to learn from the mentors a different story of life. So that was for us very positive, that we had fantastic mentors, and these mentors told us, first of all, that of course the Asian community is very important, but we knew all of that, but the access and the entrance card to special networks and people and understanding of things in a different way, that was very fruitful for us. And for me as a main founder, it was like I learned to work double. So the accelerator was just on top of what I ever did, and I thought I worked already 24/7, but in that time I had also go back and forth nearly every week to Germany for some reasons. And then the other thing is the start from day one. I can really recommend everybody and saying what we just heard, like the focus. So the first day you start, you should not think that you have a lot of time to spend and everything will work out automatically. You really have to go on full speed from day one. So that's my learning I would like to share. And maybe the last point is to be very open for change. So we learned in the beginning that to change people is very difficult, and to change yourself probably the most difficult in the world. But you have to be open for that. So if you're not open to learn and to get the lesson you learn, then you should not attend.
Wow, you said a lot of things there. The one is like, I think my favorite is full speed from day one. So that's going to stay with me. And I think also another point that you mentioned was that I worked double, and that's startup life, right? You're working 24/7 and you still think that you have to work more. And on top of that, in Germany, there is also the challenge of setting up your own company. And I think you all want to share something. You all wanted to share something about it. And so there are many startup founders here, some of them also in the process of registering their company, setting up a team, etc. And so what are your tips there when you are starting up in Germany and you're going through the process, and also about the help that is available in the ecosystem to go through that process? So maybe we start. Yeah, you? Sure.
I felt like Diksha was looking at me.
Yeah.
I think for me, so I started setting up and educating myself before I actually founded the company in February this year. So pick up the books, search the internet. The information is in front of you. You got to do the hard work there, right? Educate yourself not just about like what is it takes to be a founder. It's not all fancy. And like Arne said, you work twice your life in a day. And that's an understatement, Arne, I must add there. So yeah, educate yourself. Then also it's very important to not be an expert on every topic, but find someone that has either done that or had that journey before you, or find people that are experts on the subject matter. So, you'll need a notary here, you'll need a lawyer, you'll need a German speaker to help you do your taxation. Finding a tax lawyer, oh my God, it's a nightmare here. Anyone? Do you guys want to back me on that one? All right. So really, it's a tug of war, and it's not easy because you're already sleepless trying to come up with strategies and answers and building team and keeping motivated, and going through the bureaucracy loop is kind of Yeah, a new sport. So yeah, get on it. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe I can directly add to that. So, yeah, we had the same fun exercise of incorporating the company and then going through the whole process. Um, I mean, for us, it's a bit particular because we're registered as a stock corporation, as an AG, which has some additional tweaks and formalities that are required than to the GmbH, which is very common. And so we found out that even like lawyers and advisors that usually tend to have, you know, an idea or maybe some piece of advice ready in the top of the drawer, they actually also have to look that up because less than 1% of all newly founded companies in Germany are stock corporations. So that's another layer of complexity. And I would agree, you call it a sport. It's basically learning to swim, learning to navigate your way around the formal governance processes that are required to run a company. It's as hard for native Germans, I would say, as as for everybody else. That's basically part of the job. But I would agree that a lot of the back and forth that we had with either notaries or lawyers or commercial registers or Transparenzregister, it would have been simplified if some of the processes had been a bit more digital. And that's just to maybe also improve on the communication speed rather than sending back and forth letters. So yeah, I would agree.
And you had...
I will add a bit of a shortcut, which I did. Helps out there. This is not rocket science. People have done that tens of thousands of times. A lot of support is available in Berlin. Like what we got to know, for example, Berlin Partner, the government-related associations. They help startups. So from day one, they gave advice, and everything is free. The support is there. Resources are there. Use them. Just you don't have to repeat 10,000 times, and the people already done that before you. So take the shortcut.
Yeah, we love hearing that from startups in Berlin. So thank you.
Especially, well, we do have a German-speaking co-founder, but especially for people, you might not have that luxury. You have to get help. Don't just Google it. There are a lot of other things that you'll find out when it's too late. So use them.
I mean, I found Berlin Partners Googling it. So, you know, like, I mean, you get the resources, but the friction starts when you start talking to the bureaucracies. And that's where it gets slow and non-digital and more friction. So I think I agree with you, like there is tremendous amount of local support from private as well as public spaces, but there's still a lot of work that could be streamlined. Let's put it that way.
It's on its way. Yeah. So I think we have 3 minutes. I can take one question from audience. Yes, sure. Mike, probably.
Thank you very much, and sorry for taking this question. But I'm very curious. You explained that you were attending the German Accelerators program, and we are thinking also about having these kind of things here in Berlin. And so my question is: so the German Accelerator is now, towards Asia at least, it's now completely online, and whereas I think you have been physically in Singapore, and we have other experience over there also from the German Accelerator. Now, and Scala 8 in the other direction is so the preparation is in Singapore, and there are only, I think, a 2 weeks program in Germany. So the question is, of course, and you tell that you had to travel back and forth during the program in Singapore because you had your homework to do at home. So the question for us is, how much can you imagine doing kind of from Germany towards Asia or online towards Asia, and how much you have to really be physically on site then for both the directions? Probably there's no perfect answer, but it would be very interesting for us for conceiving the program.
I'll take it because I have a very strong personal opinion on this. So the amount that you should do virtually is 0. Always with a dedicated team, always be on the ground. It does not replace, virtual programs do not replace any local experience that you have when talking to people. there's no other way to understand the market. So that's absolutely crucial. And maybe our experience was a bit different because I could not travel back because they shut the airport during lockdown. And so, yeah, I mean, it was also a fun exercise, learning to teammates, getting to know them very, very intimately, basically, because we were living in a shared apartment for 3 months. That's also something you don't usually do. But still, we had to come up with this basically operating working mode and then basically managing time zones. And I mean, there are ways to make it work, but you always have to have a dedicated team that is running your expansion or your internationalization strategy, and it always has to be on the ground.
Would you also like to add something to that, Arne?
Look, fundamentally, I totally agree. I mean, we had the chance to do 2 programs, one in Singapore, where we have mainly be on site, and we also joined the American version, which was completely online. Both have been very fruitful and extremely successful for us, but the best takeaways would have been, of course, in the US as well, if we would have been on site, though I totally agree with that. So, yeah.
Thank you very much. Do we have another question from anyone here? Okay, then I will take it up. So we all wanted to talk about this, and luckily we have a minute or two. So there's always a point, in everybody's life while starting up. Should I do it? Should I not do it? Should I leave my job? And then you have that moment of, yes, I should do it. And I think in this room, if we can really inspire somebody who's been thinking about a startup idea for a long time to say, yes, let's try. So I would like to know that what has been that one yes moment for each one of you to really take this step to have your own startup. Lesley.
So, story time again. So I started my banking career the day, 2008, 15th of September. Who remembers that day? That's the day Lehman Brothers went bankrupt. I started my banking career there. And then 12 years on, so I worked for the big banks, lived through the financial crisis. And then I realized that, hey, you know what? In transparency, the information asymmetry, it's still the same. That caused the crisis back then and it's not getting better. And knowing banks, big banks aren't really doing the best job on that. So that got me thinking for years. I thought, you know what? How can we serve the underserved? The people really needed that. My experience, my knowledge when it comes to financial services. I don't have all the answers. I still don't. But I thought to myself, you just got to try. You got to find the answers. That's why I took the leap of faith in 2019. I thought, let's just do it. I have no idea what to do, but let's try it. And then there you go. You know the story going forward, and you just have to stay true to the purpose why you started at the first place, and use what you have, and be obsessed with it.
Well, we are glad you did that, and you are here with us in Berlin. So, Priyanka.
All right, in my case, I actually kind of realized or had an epiphany only in 2019. So I landed in Munich first in 2013. I was 27, and I was lonely, literally very lonely, to the point that I got into this rat cycle of feeling like I need to pay taxes, get my citizenship, make sure I do nothing wrong. I stay in the safe zone and I make it till I have my German passport, because to me, as an Indian passport holder, that's a privilege, right? So in 2019, before the COVID lockdown, I was super frustrated that I could not get a single friend of mine who wanted to do anything I wanted to do before the COVID lockdowns. And there's an expat community, I don't know, I'm sure like Diskha, you are on it. It's called International Women in Berlin. And I've been a part of it for 8 years. And I realized during the lockdown, the amount of people asking for anyone around them to meet them. And I was like, this was me 7 years ago. And mind you, I was 3 months short of getting my German passport. And what did I do? I did the mad thing. I said, F that. I said, that's out of the drain. I'm going to do the right thing for my community. I'm going to risk my citizenship. I'm going to risk my privilege, and I'm going to do it for the people because we need it. We need it. Because, Luca, you said it. Virtual relationship is not the real one. Online relationship is not the real one. You meet people in real life. You, as businesses, we only transact with people in real life. And that's what we're here to do with Platonic.
Glad to have you here in real life.
Me too.
Yes. So,
No. But I have my startup and my mission and my amazing team, and we're here to get that too.
Fantastic. Yeah, so for me, it was probably more of a process rather than an epiphany that suddenly hits you. But I mean, also having come from a corporate background, also very much investment banking on the trading floor, lived through the European debt crisis, basically. Also on the wrong side of it, trading credit derivatives. So not very popular things at that time. So a lot of restructurings, and at some point, you just think to yourself, where is the next learning curve? I mean, at some point, at every job, at every task that you begin, it's very steep, and then at some point it flattens. The question is, what do you do then? And for me, it was just a very strong desire to create and to learn something new, do something totally different, but yet still do something that I really enjoy doing in a context that I still like. I like the financial markets. I'm passionate about technology. And so it was more like talking to my then co-founders, who at that point we had no ideas that we would be co-founders. It was a process, and then at some point you decide, okay, why not? Let's do it.
yeah. In India, we say that when we decide on something, the universe conspires to bring it to us.
Are
So
you quoting Shah Rukh Khan?
Shah Rukh Khan says. And Arne, we would love to hear your story as well. You're an engineer turned entrepreneur, and we all know that that is a tough, usually, turn to take for engineers, at least in India, to become entrepreneurs. So what was your yes moment?
Yeah, my yes moment was very special, and sadly, probably it's not that easy to copy, because I was working extremely hard for my career as a consultant. So I always wanted to become a consultant, and I did my master in 2 different topics, electric engineering and business administration. And then at the end, when I finished my electric engineer, and I just had to finish a couple of things for the master in business administration, I got a guy came over and said, look, what you did in your master thesis, I want to buy it. Can you do it for me? I was okay. What does it mean? Yeah, you have to do it, and then you come up with an invoice, and I pay you the invoice. So I asked my friend, who was a Steuerberater and tax consultant, okay, then let's set up a company, then you can put an invoice up. So that was the starting. So my first turnover was at the end of the year. I started the company, was like 500 euro, German marks at these days. And from there, I start to work. Then all of a sudden, other people popped in and said, oh, I have some work to do here. And all of a sudden, after a couple of weeks, I was with Daimler Chrysler in automotive, and did work there on project management, which I did in my other master degree. So it was really a success story, which I didn't plan, just fall into my hands. And I hired people who worked with me. I set up a team very shortly with 30 people to work together. And then we grew up to nearly 100 in consultant. We set up our business in Detroit, in Pune, in India. We set up Volkswagen. We helped them to work there. So that was the story. And then I decided to step all back, take the money and invest in a new idea. So that was the idea of Rytle. So let's see where we will end up.
Great places. It will end up in great places. We are sure of that. And on that note, I think we've already exceeded the time a bit, but it was so good to talk to all of you and give such goosebumps. And it was really great knowing your stories. And thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
Thank you.